All right, thanks for joining us for another episode of the MaritimeGardening.com podcast. This is episode 8. And once again, Greg, how are you doing?
Doing great. It's the summer solstice.
Yes.
So time for whatever pagan ritual you attach to that. And also great gardening.
Well, that would be counting the days until next year this time, I guess.
That's not much of a ritual.
No, not really. But funny how you always wait for this year. Oh, it's going to be, the days are longer. And now it's here.
Now it's here. Now it's just, well, even though it's the longest day, it's not like it starts feeling colder after today. It just,
Right.
because it's, it's heating the ground up and everything's getting warm, and it's just going to keep doing that until, that sort of critical moment when it's upon us.
Exactly. And to clarify, obviously, if you're listening to this, you're listening to it most likely on the, what day would that be? Our release date is Tuesdays, is what we're shooting for. So this is the 20th of June that we're recording this. And so, yeah, no, that's cool. What's on the agenda for this episode, Greg?
Today is things to try that your parents never grew. So the idea is to talk about varieties of plants you can grow in your vegetable garden that you may not. I mean, I guess I'm speaking about my parents, but it's also things I'd never heard of.
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking at the list, and I can guarantee you I haven't heard of most of these until I knew you.
Yeah, so the things I stumbled upon that I really like growing, they're good in the kitchen, and I certainly never heard of them until I just the sort of thing you're in the garden center and you're staring at all the seeds and you're like, oh, what's that? So and I mean, it's always good to try new things. Sometimes you'll try new things and they're just not suited to your soil or the climate here or whatever. But sometimes they're just fine and they do great.
Cool.
So these are things that I plant that I've had success with that I like.
Okay, cool. All right, let's jump right into it.
All right, and before I started, I just want to speak to anyone that's new to gardening, relatively new to gardening. This has been this spring, or I guess, is it still spring? This is the first day of summer, isn't it?
I guess it would be.
My wife knows all this stuff. She's a school teacher. I am, just sort of my knowledge of where we are in the season as well. It felt like this today.
Yeah.
But anyway, the spring has been cooler than what's typical. Last spring was terrible too. But if you're gardening and you're looking at your garden saying, man, things aren't going the way I wanted. This plant didn't come up. This didn't germinate. This isn't happening. This is slow. This is small. Don't beat yourself up over it. That's why farmers live such a difficult existence. A farmer can have, if you talk to any farmers, they can say, oh, that was a bad year. This was a good year. Right. There's good years and bad years, and that's because you're completely dependent on factors beyond your control.
Right.
And if you live near the ocean and you don't have any sort of protection from the ocean, then it can have a cooling effect. It can also keep the fall warmer for longer. You can have an extended fall. There's all kinds of things that can happen, and it can change from year to year. And you just have to recognize when it's happening and not get all bent into shape and just roll with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even this morning I was looking at my zucchini, and only half of them are up. Half of them have germinated just fine. The other half aren't even there. And I'm not even sure that they're going to germinate. They might have just been those particular seeds, for whatever reason, just didn't have it in them to handle the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they sort of maybe they half germinated one day and then it was cool and they rotted and died. So I've replanted them all. They'll catch up.
Yeah.
As I said before, you have to have the mentality of a problem gambler.
Yeah.
It's got to be fine. It's all going to work. I got my lucky shoes on and it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's not too late to plant squashes and things like that. It'd be great if everything germinated the first week of June or even earlier. That would be ideal. And maybe if you're in a part of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, or PEI that has a nice microclimate where that happened, good for you.
Yeah, right.
I'm very jealous, but it did not happen where I am. So you just gotta roll with the punches, and it just means I'm not going to have as many zucchini in this instance as soon as I would have liked.
Right.
But when things are nice and warm, things tend to grow at an accelerated rate anyway. And the faster things grow, the better it is anyway. Plants that grow fast, that get big fast, tend to have the best. They tend to bear the best results anyway.
Right.
So yeah, cool. just roll with it and soldier on.
Right.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is an herb that I stumbled across in a hardware store, just in their garden center, and I said, "Oh, what's that?" And it's called Vietnamese coriander. I like to cook a lot of stir fry type food. I like
Mm-hmm.
cooking curries. I like cooking and making salsa. I like fajitas. I like all that sort of stuff. And coriander or cilantro. Coriander is just the name of the seed that grows cilantro.
Okay.
So if you like salsa,
Love it.
then chances are you like cilantro
Mm-hmm.
because it goes in that. Or if you like going to Vietnamese restaurants, they tend to have cilantro in their food. The leaves. You can also
Yes.
use the
Yes.
seed as a spice for certain things, but we
Okay.
typically you'll typically see the cilantro leaves in various entrees. Vietnamese coriander is not it's not coriander. I don't know what it is. It's a weed that grows greenery that looks nothing like coriander, looks nothing like cilantro,
Hmm.
not at all. But it happens to taste really, 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 really close.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't resemble it in the slightest. If you were
No.
walking by, and actually, I have a weed that grows in my garden that looks identical to it, but it tastes like poison. It's not the same thing. It looks like almost indistinguishable, but it's
Yeah.
not the same thing. Vietnamese
Hmm.
coriander, when you crumple up a leaf or bite into it or whatever, it tastes like cilantro.
Hmm.
It's this long green leaf that's spotted, has like browny black spots on it. But the advantage of Vietnamese coriander, as opposed to cilantro when you buy those little round seeds and you plant them, is that when you're growing cilantro, it's a plant that grows, it gets about a foot high, and then you got to use it or it's going to go to seed.
Right.
So you have to plant it in succession planting. So if you want to have it all summer long, you got to plant a new row of it every, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks. So for me, anything like that, I like. We read a lot of garden books. They say, "Oh, plant in successive planting." I can't stand that. I just want to plant it and eat it. And when it's gone, I'll eat something else that's ready then.
Right.
I don't like having to redo stuff like that. And it also can get boring.
Yeah.
The beauty of Vietnamese coriander is once you put it in the ground, it's going to become, you buy it as a transplant. I've only ever seen it as a transplant. It's in the herb section.
Mm-hmm.
If they've got a big pile of herbs, the oregano and the mint and all these other things. And you put that in the ground in June, doesn't like the cold, and it'll just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So by the time once the frost hits, it's done. It can't take any frost at all. It'll hang around for a day or two, but if you know the frost is coming, take it all and dry it or do something with it.
Yeah.
Make all your salsa. It gets really big. It'll be, let's say, 2 feet in diameter. If your soil is really good and it's happy where it is, it'll
Yeah.
be this big plant. So you have, from buying one $2.99, $3.99 transplant, you've got coriander all summer. And when the plant's at its biggest and at its best, that's when your tomatoes are all ready. So if you were gonna can some salsa, you'd have all this. You got to use it up anyway because the fall is coming and the frost is coming and the plant's not going to be any good soon. You got to pull the tomatoes out, and you might as well take that out too and make some salsa and put it in jars
Yeah.
if you're into that sort of thing. So it's timed really well. Whereas, for instance, if you're planting cilantro by seed, if you plant it now, you're going to have to eat it all in a month, and your tomatoes aren't even going to be close to ready in a month.
Right.
So it's timed perfectly with your tomatoes anyway.
Hmm.
So, and it's good value for money. It won't overwinter. I think it's like a zone 11 plant, so it's not going to take. Although there is one garden that I planted in another location, and it did come back. Certainly in my backyard, it never comes back.
Right.
I've left it in the ground every year. It dies.
Yeah.
But I guess in really unique situations, it can come back because I've seen it.
Hmm.
But it's a zone 11 plant because Vietnam
Yeah.
is kind of hot compared to here.
Yeah.
So, accept that you're going to have to buy one every year, but it's totally worth it because for $3.99 you got
Yeah.
cilantro all summer long,
That's
right?
awesome. I'm definitely gonna try that one because we're all about the cilantro and our salsa and in wraps and all that stuff. So.
Right, and it's not a particularly demanding plant. It doesn't need a lot. It's just a weed.
Cool.
But it also won't take over. It grows out from a center like a hosta.
Yeah.
It doesn't send tubers everywhere and take over like mint would. It just sort of grows out. It gets bigger and wider and bigger and wider and just keeps
Hmm.
going.
Nice.
Number two was a great plant that I just stumbled upon last year in reading, and I planted it, and it's come back. I think it's a zone 3 or zone 4 plant, so totally fine for here, and it's called lovage, Lovage.
Mm.
And again,
Sounds
it's
lovely.
yes, it doesn't have a lovely taste, I guess, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
got an important taste. So lovage is a member of that family that celery is in,
Okay.
and it tastes like celery, but it's a perennial. So you buy one of those for $2.99, and it'll. I planted my lovage in front of on the southern side of one of my apple trees, so it's in a place I don't normally grow things, and it's not particularly. I just stuck it in the soil that was there, which was terrible,
Mm-hmm.
useless soil, just clay soil.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything. I just made a hole big enough to put it in. I put it in, and all last year, it just hung on and looked pathetic. But this year, it was one of the first things up. So it came up about the same time as my garlic. It came up way before my rhubarb, for
Mm-hmm.
instance.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mind the cold. It came up and it's about 2 feet high now. And these can apparently get to 5 feet high
Wow.
if your soil's good and all that sort of stuff. So, and all you do is, I mean, celery's not a food. I mean, it's food, but I mean, it's hardly got anything in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We add celery to foods to accent the flavor. You know, if celery was a delicious food, you could go to a restaurant and get a plate of celery.
That is true.
I've never seen that anywhere. It's usually added to things.
Yeah.
You know, the seeds go really good with a margarita.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh,
Trying to get your kids to eat it, you slather it with peanut butter or cheese whiz.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You gotta cover it, or you dip it in your goopy dip that goes with all your other vegetables. You know, why would you? I've tried growing celery. It doesn't. Celery takes like 100 days to mature. It takes a long time to grow celery, and I've had mixed results with it. I've never really been happy with the celery I've grown. Now, you know, my own advice says that I should keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and one year
Right.
I'll get. But since I've discovered lovage, and it's not like I eat buckets of celery. I mean,
Right.
it's if you're making something, you want a bit of that celery taste in it, like
Yeah.
a soup. Or I was making black eyed peas the other day. When you're frying up the bacon and all that sort of stuff. You just throw in a stalk of that lovage, and the whole house smells like celery. It's got a really strong flavor, so you don't need a lot. So it's a great substitute for
Totally.
celery if you use celery in your cooking. You here,
Nice.
and you buy it once and you've got it forever.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's lovage. Another plant I talked about earlier, so I won't talk about very long.
Yeah. I forget what
Kohlrabi.
episode.
Um, Kohlrabi is a plant that grows a turnip, something. It grows a bulb, not a bulb. It grows a root that
Mm-hmm.
is a cross between a radish and a turnip. I'm not very fond of the root.
Yeah.
It grows these huge green leaves, and I never saw this growing up. I bought seeds at a dollar store one year and tried them out, and it just makes this huge green plant, and the greens are very tasty. It's a good substitute for cabbage.
Okay.
So instead of growing cabbage, which cabbage takes a long time, you know, it's
Mm.
got to you got to do all this stuff with the leaves, and there's certain pests that like cabbage. There's also pests that like kohlrabi, but they only like the kohlrabi when it's young. If you can get it past that like 1 inch tall, 2 inch tall stage, it's pretty good after that,
Right.
with the exception of a few really pesky caterpillar type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great. Any dish that you would use cabbage in, imagine a cabbage is just a little more flavorful.
Yeah.
Not only that, but when you harvest the leaves and you put them in you never wash the leaves. So when you harvest the leaves and you're going to put them in your fridge, you just harvest the leaves and put them in a bag and put them in the wash them when you're going to eat them. If you wash it, that goes for any leafy
Mm-hmm.
vegetable, really. If you're going to harvest it and put it in your fridge for a day or two, don't wash it, because washing it tends to just accelerate the breaking down process.
That's a good
Wash it when
tip.
you're about to eat it,
Yeah.
and don't worry about the bugs.
Okay. Greg
they'll,
said so.
they'll just slow down in your fridge, and they'll stay right on it.
They're just protein anyway.
They should just slow down. Well, when you wash it, they should
Yeah.
come out, but they're
Yeah.
not. They're not going to go anywhere because your fridge is cold. It's winter in your fridge.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, you're going to see. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
You're going to see the bugs anyway. You'll shake them off or whatever.
Yeah.
But it keeps for a ridiculously long amount of time. And you put that in a bag, an old Sobeys bag or something, in your fridge. Leave it there for a couple weeks. It looks fine.
Huh.
It's an incredibly good plant in
Nice.
terms of its ability to keep.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's not very popular. And the only reason I think it's not popular here is it's not common. And we're so focused on that terrible. It's not terrible. It's just the root is in my opinion, the root isn't the star of the show,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
even though it is a root vegetable and it's grown for the root.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add the root to, I add the root to soup
Yeah.
so that it sort of tastes like what I put
Yeah.
in the soup.
Right.
Um, so that's kohlrabi. Another one, it's a squash called delicata squash. And if you're new to this, when you're in a garden center, you're looking at all the seeds, all the squashes are called squash. So zucchini, often you'll get a pack of zucchini seeds, and the word zucchini isn't anywhere on the pack.
Oh yeah.
You want to buy a pumpkin, and it doesn't say pumpkin, it says squash. But if you're
Ah.
lucky, there's a picture and it looks like a pumpkin.
Right.
A lot of that family of vegetables, it just says squash. So you got to know the variety. So a delicata squash is not a zucchini. It's a what would you call it? It's a winter squash. So it's a squash that you harvest in the fall, and you can put it in a someplace cool, and it'll keep for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you grow a whole bunch of them. It's a great plant to grow because you grow a whole bunch of them. You harvest them before the frost comes, and you just put them somewhere
Yeah.
and use them as you want them, and they'll keep for quite a while. I mean, geez, you can even leave them in your kitchen for quite a while. Just like like an acorn squash or a butternut squash, they'll keep for quite a long time. But the beauty of delicata squash is they're small. They're like the size of a sweet potato, and their taste is not unlike that of a sweet potato.
Mm.
And they don't have a lot of seeds inside, so they're pretty easy. You just cut the thing in half lengthwise and
Mm-hmm.
scoop out the seeds. One whole plant, let's say the size of a good sized sweet potato, would have, oh, a tablespoon or so of seeds in it. They don't have a lot of seeds.
Okay.
So you're getting a lot, and they're very easy to grow. And because because the squashes aren't particularly big, you can train them upwards. And if you're growing a squash with a really big fruit and you're trying to grow it vertically, you got to do all this stuff to support it because those heavy squashes want to
Mm-hmm.
pull the thing down.
Mm-hmm.
But these delicata squash, it's almost like growing pickling cucumbers. You can train it right up, and it'll be fine. So it's handy if you haven't got a lot of room. If you want to grow squash and you haven't got a lot of room and you want to grow vertical, which a lot of people do, especially if they're in the city and space is at a premium, or if they're renting one of those garden plots in a
Yep.
community garden, putting a couple of those in is great because you can grow them up, 4 or 5 feet high,
Mm.
and they'll just grow. You can make like a tree out of it if you got the right kind of trellis.
Nice.
So that's delicata, and they look really nice too. There's this pretty sort of striped green and yellow sort of color. They look really cool. They taste very good. They keep
Mm.
really well. Only good things to say.
Good.
Uh, that's delicata squash. And finally, this is a kind of zucchini, although you'll never see the word zucchini on the package. It's called costata romanesco. I'm guessing it's Italian.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
It's a zucchini, but when you go to the grocery store, the zucchini typically are those dark green ones.
Yeah.
Of the zucchini varieties I've tried, I would say there's one you can buy. There's one I buy that's like that called Black Beauty. Looks like the ones you buy in the grocery store. It's the least of the zucchini, the least good tasting of the zucchini.
Mm-hmm.
There's better zucchini out there, and Costata Romanesco is, in my opinion, in terms of what I've tried, it's the best. It's an impressive looking plant. It's big, it's 3 feet high and 3 feet wide. It's really big looking. You look like if you got good soil, this thing's going to make you look like an awesome gardener.
Cool.
It's got a really neat ribbed structure, the actual fruit, the zucchini.
Mm-hmm.
They can get really big. They can get 1.5 feet long and 4 or 5 inches in diameter, so they can get really big. I wouldn't harvest them at that size. I'd get them a bit smaller, maybe
Yeah.
9 inches. But flavor-wise, they blow other zucchini out of the water. They're really, really
Mm.
good tasting zucchini. I mean, zucchini is one of those things people tend to not go too crazy about. It doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own. You'd cook it with other things.
Yeah.
Not so for this variety, Costata Romanesco. It's just good tasting. Geez, if I'm in the garden and I'm kind of hungry and it's not supper time yet, I'll just snap one off and eat it right there. It's that
Yeah.
good. So it's a very, I mean, it's not bacon, but
Well, pretty hard to grow bacon in the
we can
soil.
grow that, man.
Yeah.
I'm switching
Yeah,
jobs.
you figure that one out, I think we're on to something.
But it is very good tasting, and it's great for cooking with, and it makes an excellent One thing we love here is zucchini relish. I've never figured out a good way to pickle. I love pickles, but
Yeah.
zucchini tends to, in my opinion, doesn't make as good a pickle as a pickling cucumber.
No.
But a
No.
relish, a zucchini relish, is better than most relish you buy. You buy relish, it's cucumber relish,
Yeah.
right? But zucchini relish, in my opinion, is much better. And if you make it with that variety, it's just great. It's
Well,
really
all this talk of different relishes and things like that, I think maybe when this season's over, we're gonna have to come out with some of Greg's favorite recipes and do a little show on that.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be great to
Cool.
do that. Well, for me, gardening and cooking is, I love to cook. I do most of the cooking in my house. I
Mm.
worked in a restaurant for, I think, a month. They
Yeah.
fired me.
Yeah.
It
Well,
wasn't a great time.
proper thing. Proper thing.
The cooking industry is a really, really tough business.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I do love cooking. I just don't love doing it for a living. That's
Right.
a whole nother. If you ever
Right.
watched any of those cooking shows, they're not too far off.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones with Gordon Ramsay and that sort of thing. They're
Not the most.
the kindest of employers.
Yeah.
If you're in
Yeah.
the kitchen.
Yeah.
But anyway, cooking and gardening is totally because you're growing food. So I
Yeah.
mean, what's your end game? Your end game is to eat that. And if you've put all that energy into growing it, then you want it to taste really good. So naturally,
Exactly.
you start getting better and better
Yeah.
at growing. I guess an honorable mention too would be, as I mentioned last week, garlic. Grow garlic. Next this fall, get in a garden center, buy all the seed garlic you can find, plant as much of it as you can everywhere. You will not be sorry for planting garlic. You'll kick yourself that you didn't grow it before. It's very easy to grow, and it'll benefit if you use garlic in your cooking. Grow garlic.
Yeah. Makes sense. Awesome. So
That
that.
does it. I mean, there's lots of other things,
Yeah.
but I think those are main ones. I think a lot of people probably haven't heard of.
The 5 main ones and a bonus of garlic.
We tend to sort of go along in this box. We all tend to live in boxes where
Right.
we do what we're used to and we stick with what we know, which is safe.
Safe. Yes. Let's be safe.
But it's worth trying different things once in a
Right.
while. It's certainly the old adage: nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
Definitely, if you've got the space, if you've got the room, why not try something new this season?
Yeah.
And there's still time to plant all of these things. So
That's cool. Very good. No, that's
There you
good
go.
info. That's good info. I might try dropping a few of those in the ground myself.